Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Morgan Luttrell goes absolute Navy SEAL mode when the smug liberal, or really he's a libertarian, but when the smug bureaucrat tries to get smart with him. It's not going to end too well. Let's dive in.
When I speak about the terrorist watch list and those individuals that are listed on it, have you ever been in Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa? Have you ever been to a theater of war?
No.
Have you ever experienced anything catastrophic and you've ever been engaged in a gunfight? That may be a silly question, but I need to know these answers.
I have had a gun pointed at me, but I have not been involved in a
It's amazing.
gunfight.
It's an amazing experience, isn't it?
That's a nice euphemism for it.
Yes, it is. I'm trying to be genuine in here, and I'm trying to be simple in here. I guess the best way to say that. So, have you ever read the book or seen the documentary Terror of Beslan, the school siege in Russia?
I've not seen the documentary, but I've seen footage of that attack.
Okay, so that's the terrorist organization came in and took over a school. Certain number, and it was a massacre, right? And when I see this list, the terror list is what I'm talking about here. My concern is it only takes one. It only takes one terrorist to perform an extreme act of violence. Man, me and that man right there, Mr. Crane, have been in multiple gunfights, multiple VBIED explosions, multiple suicide bombs overseas in the theater of war. And a lot of times, it was one person. One. And if we can do anything and everything we can to prevent, capture, kill any terrorist that's coming into this country, that's what needs to happen. I walked shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Goldman in New York City 2 weeks ago on 9/11. 9/11. The museum is beyond humbling. I don't want anything like that to ever happen again in this country. And it seems like and I hate to say this, but we're getting caught in the political jargon right now. That should not happen when we're trying to protect American citizens. Period. And the numbers that you rattled off, I understand you're a statistician. They're great. But even if we're talking about 0.07%, that's still one person. Is that clear?
Yes, sir, it is. I'm not saying do nothing. All I'm saying is don't do everything. We have to consider, you have lots of different security threats. You have to allocate scarce resources to save the greatest number of lives.
If we don't do everything, that one thing we don't do is going to get us killed.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is impossible to do everything. Do you want to spend 100% of U.S. GDP on counterterrorism?
Okay. I don't know if you know my background or not, or that man sitting over there, but our job was to do everything, period. And that's why we were 99.9% successful.
But you know what? Let's start on a positive note. Morgan Luttrell, along with guys like Eli Crane, they have served in one of the most rare capacities as an American soldier. And furthermore, they are now serving as an American representative. So they have a lifetime of what service actually looks like. Compare that to this, I don't want to be insulting to the dude's face, but he looks a little bit swarmy, just for lack of a better word. That is Alex, how am I going to pronounce this? Nowrasteh? But this dude comes from the Cato Institute. And I used to be a huge fan of the Cato Institute, because they used to be all about economics. And then they started talking about how unfettered immigration is going to be a great thing for this country. And that's when I realized that the Cato Institute was not one of these places to be trusted. Now, it's not because immigrants are terrible. No. The problem that we have with immigration in this country isn't actually the immigrants coming in. That's not the problem. See, we're fortunate here in the United States. We get Latinos from South America, hardworking people with a Catholic background, very Western adjacent. This is not the European problem. Europe has to import its people from North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Middle East because those are the places closest to it. And just like Europe, the United States is having a population problem. Our Social Security and Medicare, yeah, we're running out of people to pay into those systems, which is a big reason why so many of our politicians just refuse to tackle the unfettered immigration problem that keeps on pouring across. Because Democrats know that they're never going to be able to actually reform Social Security. They don't have the guts to. At least Republicans won't bring it up. And so the theory is, and this is why you can't, I don't like referring to it as the Great Replacement theory, even though that's technically what's happening. We're having to make up a deficit of literal human beings because the baby boomers, ironically enough, didn't have enough kids. And so the Cato Institute is in lockstep with Democrats on this issue because they care about the bottom line of economics. And this is where I have some fundamental disagreements with libertarian friends, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of libertarians that listen to this channel. And that's been the huge new influx of fresh blood into the Republican Party. So on one hand, Cato Institute is great on the economy. On the other hand, this dude here is talking about the statistics that he's been looking at. He's talking about the government shouldn't be spending that much money on our own defense. You try telling that to a Navy SEAL veteran who has been in a gunfight, who has had bullets flying past his head. Okay, just because I've had paintballs and airsoft pellets go whizzing by doesn't mean I've been in a life or death situation. That is, unless you're, of course, caught in Atlanta rush hour traffic, which I have been, though not quite as dire. Regardless, I have not been in a firefight. We know that this Alex dude definitely hasn't been, although he has had a weapon pointed at him. What an experience. Yeah, I don't think that's the same. And ultimately, the issue here is that this dude is smug in his answers. On one hand, I can respect people who do trash talk. As a matter of fact, as much as I hate trash talking and trash talkers, one of my favorite NFL players was Richard Sherman. Why? He could back it up. One of my least favorite players of all time, Phillip Rivers. He couldn't back it up. That's the difference between those two. Richard Sherman, for a while, was one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, where Phillip Rivers would be lucky to be considered a top half quarterback. And the dude threw so many interceptions that he had to pad stat his numbers in order to make it look like he was actually good at his job. So that's why I respect trash talking from guys like Richard Sherman and not like Phillip Rivers. This Alex dude is in the Phillip Rivers territory, whereas Morgan Luttrell is in the Richard Sherman territory. He can back it up. He's done the job. He has been in the trenches, whereas Alex is nothing more than a statistician. And he is very well educated. Let's see, where did he go? George Mason University, the London School of Economics and Political Science. The dude is well educated, and that is to be commended. But just because you're educated doesn't make you intelligent. More often than not, the most intelligent people you will ever meet are people who can work with their hands, who make magic with machines. People who can work an assembly line and they just have a completely different mindset and allows them to be the best employee on the floor. And that goes for pretty much all humanity. You don't have to be college educated in order to be truly intelligent. And I'm not saying that this guy's dumb, far from it. He is arguing from stats and from a correct perspective. The problem is twofold. Again, I've mentioned his smugness. I cannot respect his smugness. And ultimately, what I really can't respect is the mindset. The whole goal is to reach that 100% protected level. Granted, it's never going to get there, okay? You're never going to make that happen. You're never going to make a world safe for everyone. Eventually, you're going to get a paper cut. You're going to break a limb. Something bad is going to happen. That's just life. That's the roll of the dice that we all take. But we can have that mindset that we can keep getting better. And that's what this dude is lacking. So no wonder Morgan Luttrell does go off on him. No wonder that he reminds him that, hey, I'm a Navy SEAL. I can argue better than you can, and that's why I'm in Congress, and you are pushing pencils and pushing numbers on an Excel spreadsheet. That is the difference between someone whose job it is to look through the data and see where we can get better, and someone who merely provides data and more often than not gets overwhelmed with it and misses the point entirely. We can. It is possible for America to be the safest nation on earth and protect from all kinds of evils. It is possible to do that. But when you take the mindset of, well, some stuff is just going to fall through the cracks and you're going to be so nonchalant about it, yeah, you're going to get slapped down pretty hard and people aren't going to respect that mindset. Again, this is trash talking Richard Sherman versus trash talking Phillip Rivers. And if you respect Phillip Rivers over the trash talking Richard Sherman, yeah, you probably need to play another sport. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.